For my food culture project, I chose goulash. It is a dinner that I grew up eating. My grandparents would always come over, and when they came over for dinner, we would always have goulash. It especially reminds me of planting the garden because it was like a tradition that my grandparents would come over, and my grandma would bring goulash, and then we'd plant the garden and then eat goulash for dinner with garlic bread or it was developed originally from hunters and gatherers in a Hungarian society. They used a bunch of non-perishable foods and dried red peppers and any meat that they could gather, and they put it together in a pot. Um, they called it gulyas. Uh, Eventually, Hungary was taken over by the Germans, and the Germans incorporated goulash into their foods and traditions. Um, then from there, it came to America with migrants. My grandpa is originally from the Netherlands, and so the Netherlands isn't very far from Germany and Hungary, so there and probably was passed along through merchants and trade. But when his family came to the U.S., goulash was the meal that they brought with them. Um, the the recipe that I made is just one of the multiple recipes that exist. Every culture, every family has their own take on it. For one serving, it is a fourth pound lean ground beef, about a third a clove of garlic. I use minced garlic. A third cup of water, a fourth of a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, a fourth of a 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes, about 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, about 3/8 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a large yellow onion, 1 cup of elbow macaroni. I use penne because that's what I had. In total, it's about 386 calories for one serving. That's 28 grams of protein, 34 grams of carbs, 14 grams of fat. Cholesterol is 74 milligrams, and sodium is 1,466 milligrams. For your macronutrients, like I mentioned, this is a meal, so it does cover most. There are 113 calories of protein, which is about 30% of your daily recommended. So that's pretty high. Carbs is about 136 calories, which is about 35, which is pretty low. Actually, that's lower than your recommended. And then fats is 131 calories, which is about 34%, which is on the higher end of what your daily intake should be. This is a meal, so it does offer enough carbs and fiber to help normalize blood glucose and proper bowel functioning and decrease circulating cholesterol. So I would consider it a healthy meal for that reason, healthy food. However, it is low on carbs, so you wouldn't obviously couldn't sustain off of it. I like this because it can be used for future energy. The carbs can be available for muscle growth and along with the proteins. First, you brown the ground beef, then you get water boiling for the noodles, and then you combine water, tomato sauce, and diced tomatoes. Once the water is done boiling, you add the noodles and cook the noodles while you mix in your onion, your tomato sauce, your ground beef, your garlic, and then the water. Once the ingredients are ready and the noodles are done cooking, you can literally just put them all in one pot together. I typically eat it with a fork, but I do know people who eat them with a spoon. The person I chose to interview was my mom, because she was the one who made it for me mostly growing up. She said she always had it growing up too. Like I mentioned, her parents were from the Netherlands, and so it was a meal that they had on rotation. growing up, and she said when she moved in to her own apartment, it was one of the meals she made by herself because it's pretty easy and it's quick. I asked her any weird things about it, and she said she likes to pair it with applesauce. She just one day wanted applesauce with it, and for years now has just eaten goulash with applesauce. Fun thing that I would like to add too is that whenever I had like sleepovers with my friends or something, they would always request that my mom made goulash. Like I said, there are multiple variations. Here's the dish that I made. So yeah.